Hey YouTube, Vermont Prepper. We got a special one today. This is a super rare Ampeg V7 guitar amp that I got off of Facebook Marketplace for $300. They're going for much more in really good shape. That I'm going to try and do some troubleshooting techniques to it because right now it's blowing fuses. And they're going to be very basic techniques. But for all you vintage instrument freaks like me, this one should be a good one, so stay tuned and don't touch that dial. Alright, so a little history on the Ampeg V7. There aren't many of them around. You can find very little information on it on the internet or on YouTube. At least I couldn't. And you have some sparse, demonstrations, like one or two really good ones, where they go through some of the settings, which is really cool. But this particular V7, this particular model, is the one that Ampeg used or created to compete with the JCM, the Marshall JCM 800. It's very different than a lot of their other models of amplifiers. They're known for basses, right? This one actually was, I think Ampeg sold their company back in late 70s or early 80s. And this one is actually made in Japan by, I guess, MTI is the name of the company. And basically, again, it was a competitor to the JCM 800. It has, for power tubes, 4 GE 6550s in it. And as I mentioned before, this one just blows fuses when you turn it on. I haven't tried turning it on yet, but the guy that I bought it from said, trust me, it blows fuses every time you turn it on. And it does have a blown fuse in the back. So I didn't even plug it in yet. So what I'm trying to do is do some quick, easy troubleshooting techniques in order to figure out possibly why we have some blown fuses. So the first thing that I do is I took out the power tubes, and you'll see back here this thing is dusty, so I'm going to take a compressor, air compressor to the back right here and blow it out. But the power tubes are all here, and they're just like spring loaded right there, and they come right out. And what I have right here is a tube tester. I actually have two of them. I only need to use one. My guess is from the condition of these, they're going to be pretty bad. Alright, so, and that definitely could be a reason why the fuse is blowing. So I'll probably have to end up getting another set of power tubes and then testing it again. So what I'm going to do right now is show you how to test the 6550s. What you have here is a Hickok Model 600A tube tester. And I'm not going to go through the entire operation of this thing, but basically you use this, looks like a old Rolodex to find your tube model, right? And then it gives you all of the selections for these buttons and switches and things like that of what you have to set it up in order to test this particular GE 6550. Well, unfortunately, this particular Rolodex does not have the 6550 in it. So I had to do a little bit of internet sleuthing, and I found what the settings should be for this in order to test it. So I'm going to go through them right now in case anybody else has to go through this and test it. So you have a number of switches on the bottom. I'm going to go across. There's 2 filaments, a grid, a plate, a screen, cathode, and a suppressor. So the first 2 are filaments. You got a J and an R that you want to switch it to. The grid is a 5, plate is a 3, screen is a 4, cathode's a 7, suppressor is a 2. All right, so that's the bottom switches. This filament switch right here, you want it at 6.3. This bias knob, you want it set to 12. And this so-called English knob, you want it set to 92. All right, and I have them all set already. And I have my trusty GE, or untrusty GE, 6550 sitting in the proper socket. And these particular ones, they basically have a notch in the bottom. Hopefully you could see, let's see if we can see that notch. In the middle, you see a notch where it fits into only one of these particular sockets, right? And it only goes in one way, so you can't screw it up. All right, so I have this thing warming up in there, and let's see if we got a little glow. If we could see the glow. There's a glow right there. All right, so what we do next is we use this tube tester switch right here. You see right there it says tube test. That's when you're testing your tube right here with these buttons. But these other settings on this particular switch are actually to test for shorts. So when you're testing for shorts, basically you see this light right over here. This light, that will be in a totally on position whenever you select one of these settings right here, and that will indicate that it's a short. Okay, you don't have to go any further to test this particular tube if this light stays on. It might flicker in between switching between these selectors. Let's do that now. You see how it flickers? It's not all of them, some of them. Doesn't mean there's a short. Okay, so this tube does not have a short, and you want to make sure that it's back on tube test after you're done, because now you have to select the P4 button and you have to depress that, and basically it's gonna be either red or green. All right, and we all know what red means. All right, so here we go. All right, so we're bad on this particular tube. All right, so you can see right there, that right there alone, just one tube, can cause the fuse to blow. So I'm going to go through all the other tubes and I'll give you the results. All right, I spared you all of the testing. It's all the same, right? All I got to do is press the button. But basically all of the power tubes are bad. All right, so I got to replace all 4 of them, and they need to be matched, those 4. The next thing I'm going to do is take out the electronics. I have to take off this dust cover, and there's 4, if you see them back there, 4 bolts. I think they're metric on this side and this side. I just have to remove the nut, and then this thing, it'll remove the dust cover, and then this thing should just slide right out. All right, and you'll see really how dirty this is. I'm gonna try and clean up as best I can. Then I'm gonna take out the remaining tubes, the preamps, and I believe there's a rectifier. I have to look at the schematic again, but I forget. I'll check that out. But basically I have to remove the other tubes, and I'm going to test those. And those are 12 AX7s, GEs as well. And I'll probably end up trying to get some vintage GE ones. Everybody says it really doesn't matter, but I kind of like keeping everything the way it was built as much as possible. So, and I'm not a guitar player, by the way. I just enjoy trying to fix vintage equipment and kind of accumulating things for my home studio when I can. So this is a very reasonable price at $300. They're selling for a lot more in Reverb, like I mentioned, but I'll end up keeping this anyway, so because the price is right on it. All right, so I guess I got to disconnect some of there's some RCA jacks. I don't know what that's for, but I got to disconnect them. Let's see, you see the red and the black one right there? Got to disconnect those before I slide it out. And we'll see where that goes later on. But I'm going to take some of the deoxit to, you know, some of the open electronics right there. You get this cleans your electronic pots and things like that. So I'll just give it a good cleaning, and who knows, maybe I'll get lucky and replacing the tubes will do it. I'm probably going to end up, if that does do it, I'm going to have to end up probably taking it to a tech anyway to just get it serviced and replace any kind of capacitors or anything like that that need to be replaced. But I just want to get it so it doesn't stop blowing fuses. That's the main thing. And it seems that, you know, I'm onto something at least really solid with having 4 bad power tubes. All right, so next thing is taking out the electronics there, and it just slides out. All right, all I have to say is, oh my Lord, look at this. We are in some pretty sad shape here. This is from years of just sitting, so who knows what's going to happen. I'm just going to clean it up. I mean, the soldering looks like it's okay, but man, oh man, that is in some pretty sad shape. There's some corrosion in there. Yeah, it's pretty bad. And we got some bugs over there, you know, all over the place. So I was going to blow this out in my basement, but I don't think I'm going to do that anymore. I'm going to bring it outside and blow it out there. That is absolutely crazy. We'll see if this makes a difference when I blow it out. All right, I'm going to set up my compressor and be right back. All right, we have the amp set up outside, and yes, there is snow already. I shoveled. What you see right here, I don't know the name of this thing, but my son's a car detailer. And you see that little squiggly thing in the middle, it agitates things. So it's easy to, you don't almost not even need to vacuum with this thing. So I'll show you. Kind of just like agitates. And instead of just like blowing the air, it actually blows out the dirt. So let's see how it works on this. Alright, that's definitely much better. This thing, you gotta kind of let it, I'm only using a little pancake compressor, so it's got to build up. It uses a lot of air, so in a very short amount of time. But no doubt, it definitely helped. So now I'm gonna just try and get into like some of the switches and things like that, and you know, maybe underneath this circuit board right here a little bit better after it builds up, and you know, back here, and then I'll just spray some deoxit, and I'm not going to do much else to it because I really don't know what I'm doing. I do have a schematic, but I'm not even going to mess around with it because I think that if I could just get it so that it doesn't blow, I'd be so happy. That would be mission accomplished. Alright, so I'm going to finish doing this and then do the same for the cabinet. And then I'll show you the results when I bring it back in. Alright, I see why they use the agitator. This cabinet was filthy, and I just cleaned it out. I still got to do some more, you know, scrubbing a little bit, but it got out all of the cobwebs and just major stuff. And this cover right here in the bottom, it holds some kind of metal plate with springs in it. I'll show you what that is. I really don't know what it is because I'm not an amp guy, but it covered it, and that was actually in pretty good shape because of the cover. So I'll clean the cover, condition it, make it look nice. But I always go back and forth on whether or not I want to mess with the fabric right here. And in this case, I think I'm going to leave the fabric as it is because I'm going to keep it, and I'm going to use it as a reminder that this amp has been through hell before it comes back. So I want it to look weathered. I don't want to renew it, so I'm going to just keep it like it is for this particular things. Other things I would do something different, you know. I try and keep everything as original as possible as far as functionality goes, and sometimes I'll do something cosmetically, but in this case I'm not going to do that. I'm going to keep the coverings on the cabinet as well as this fabric right here on the dust cover. It's going to stay the same. I might try and take some of the rust off of the chrome right here, but first things first, get this amp running. Okay, so I'm going to show you one of those things I've been talking about, like cosmetic things. So this rubber foot is missing. I found a source that has Ampeg rubber feet. So I'm going to go ahead and replace all 4 of them. To me, that doesn't do anything to devalue the amp. I'll keep the old ones, of course, but it's missing one. And if a vintage one comes up on Reverb or somewhere else, I'll swipe it up. But for right now, I'm just gonna replace all 4. It'll make it more functional. It'll sit flat because right now it does wobble when you have it faced upright the proper way. It's upside down right now, obviously. So I'm gonna finish cleaning up this this cabinet on the outside and the inside. I will tell you though that this pouch right here came out fairly well. I also kind of refreshed the fabric here with some cleaner, and you know, some dirt came off of it, and did the back as well. I took all the dirt off of that. So again, that'll just stay as is. Yeah, this thing was sitting in a garage, and right now the weather's starting to turn in Vermont, as you saw, and right now it's about 8 degrees out. So this thing was in a garage for a number of years. Who knows if it's even going to work, but I took a risk on it for the price, and we'll see how it goes. But I believe it can be fixed. You know, these things were made really well, and at least that's what I'm hoping. I'm going to invest a little bit more money in it, and if I can get it running without blowing a fuse, I'll take it to a tech and get it fully serviced, because I honestly don't know what I'm doing with these things. I'm not a guitar player by any means, but I do like having a lot of different vintage equipment around, or good equipment in general. that people, when they come over, can just play, you know, because I play with the band and have musicians that come over. So if they want to use it, they can use it. And I'd be interested to hear how it sounds from what I read, the little things that I've read and seen on the internet. These things really crank out. All right, I got the outside fully done. And I just got to do the inside. And again, that agitator really did the heavy work. All I have to do is kind of wipe it down right now. Especially the inside of the electronics. That would have taken forever. I mean, you could get probably most of it out with a regular compressor blower, but I think that agitator just made a huge difference. Because I've used the blowers before, and you know, they're good, but that, to me, that was a game changer. So for all you guys that do this for a living, that probably would be a pretty good investment. And from what I understand, I don't think they're that much money. Yeah, there's still dirt caked up in here that you really got to just use a little muscle to get out. It's not huge, but you do need to get it out. All right, I think that's all done. And we'll just let it dry, put a little bit of conditioner on there, and then we'll call it a day. We'll experiment with a little bit of cleaner for leather right here and see what that does. I know that's not leather, but we'll certainly can't hurt it. You see how this flops? That's because the foot is missing. It's hitting my stove. Let's move it. I think it helps some. We'll see how it dries. It's starting to come apart over there. Certainly got battle scars. All right, we have the cabinet pretty much clean, as clean as it's going to get from my standards at least. Put a nice light on it, not too shabby. Much better than it was. So this amp comes with 4 12AX7 for the preamp, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then this one is for the reverb. It's a 12AT7, and I have that in the tester right now. 12AT7. So I'm gonna turn a light on here. Again, here's the settings between the red lines for the 12AT7s, and it has 2 triodes. I have it set up right now for the second triode. So EV 2103 -0. Okay, and then we want to set the bias to 10, which I have it to 10 right there, and we need to set the English to 85. All right, so we're on 85 right there. So we'll make sure that our line adjust is okay. Yeah, we're pretty on there. So now we'll test it, whether it's good or actually let's do the short test first. No short. Okay. Just press the P4 for the good or bad. Well into the good. Then what we're going to do is we're going to test the mutual conductance, the micromodes. It should be around 4,000. And what you have to do for that is there's 3 scales on this particular meter right there. You see at the end there it says 3,000, 6,000, 15,000. And then you have 3 red dots there that you can see. The first dot is the top scale for 3,000, the second dot is for 6,000, and the third is for 15,000. So I'm going to set it for the second dot for the 6,000 scale. And then we're going to press P4 and that tests the mutual conductance. All right, so we're well above 4,000. You got to look at the second scale there. So this is testing pretty much like new old stock, this particular reverb tube. It's in good shape. And I'll save you all of the heartache about me testing all of the 12AX7s. They all test good. they're all pretty close to new old stock. So and likewise, I already tested triode 1 on this one, and it's perfect. So all you would do is just switch the bottom row here, these switches to the 7608-0. The bias and the English stay the same, and that's for triode 1. It's 4,000 is the mutual conductance in it, and it tested really close to it. So that's all of the preamp and the reverb tubes. So basically, I have 2 bad power tubes, and all of the other tubes are okay. So what I'm going to do is source some power tubes, and I'll get a matched quad, and I'll get a fuse, and then we'll try and turn it on with a variac. So, and see what happens. We'll turn it up slowly, see if it blows the fuse. If it doesn't blow the fuse, that was my goal, and then I'll just take it to, like I said before, to an amp tech and get things recapped if I can, or whatever needs to be done, you know, cleaning out the switches, pots, whatever. It does need some cleaning for sure, some extra cleaning. So that's basically it for right now. And while I'm filming right here, I'm looking on Reverb, and I do see some new old stock GE 6550s that I'm going to grab right now. They're like $230, and they're tested really good. So I don't know if it's new old stock, but we'll check it out and see. I forgot whether I mentioned this before, but basically I read that power tubes, or any other tube for that fact, if they've sat for years, you probably should let them warm up for an extra long time before you test them. So I tested them the first time, they all tested bad. And then I read that little excerpt on the internet, and sure enough, I retested them, and 2 out of the 4 power tubes actually tested really strong. So I still do have 2 that are bad, which those are the 2 right there. And then these are the 2 that tested good, and they tested actually pretty strong. But I'm still going to source some extra, you know, a quad set. I'm not going to just get 2, because I want to make sure they're matched. And hopefully that these 2 will be similar to the other 4 that I'm getting. So we'll see. We'll test those when I get them. Here's what I was talking about before. I've come to find out, and again, I'm not an amp guy, so you guys are going to laugh at me, but this is the reverb tank right here. And that's what this bag held. And that goes on the bottom there, and it just screws right into the wood. The bag does, not the tank. So, and then these 2 RCA jacks, they plug up into the electronics part there. I'll show you where it goes. Goes right in there. Right there. There's that black plate right there. That's where the RCA jacks go for the reverb tank. So that's what I was trying to figure out before, what the heck it was. And again, this is my first time dealing with an amp, so didn't know what it was right away. Okay, before I turn it on, I want to just summarize what I did. I basically took apart the entire amp, not any of the electronics. I just cleaned everything out, cleaned out all of the sockets of the power tubes with deoxit right here, as well as changed out the power tubes. There were 2 that tested bad, and I tested all of the preamp tubes and they were good. There's 4 of those, and then there's one reverb tube which tested a little weak, and I happen to have one spare that I just replaced, and that one's in really good shape. The next thing I did in the meantime is I found a guy on Reverb that built a foot switch. You know, these things came with the FC3 foot switch that selects between channels 1 and 2 and also turns reverb on and off. So I'll put a link down in the description to this guy, but he only charged me 85 bucks, and that includes shipping, this pedal with all of the components, and a 15-foot 5-pin XLR. So without any further delay, I have turned it on before, and I'm happy to say that it does work. And you will see the tubes heat up here. It's real satisfying to get this thing working. I have maybe 500 bucks in this thing so far. Not very much compared to what these are actually worth. So I'm going to take the light off of it so you can see the glow of the tubes. And hopefully you can see there's at least 2 of them there. There's the 3rd. And the 4th one, it's behind the transformer there. But basically all of them work. And then you see channel 1 right here. And channel 2, the light is off. So I'm going to show you how when I switch my foot switch here. Okay, that's turning it off. Channel 1. Turning on channel 2. Reverb doesn't have an LED, but the light does turn on. I'm going to assume that it works until I get my cabinet in to test this thing. But for all intents and purposes, this was a big win for me. You can see that the LED does work, or not the LED, the actual light in the switch does work. Let me shut off this overhead here. And you can see that does work right there. Likewise, the standby works. That's a little bit brighter actually. So everything seems to be working. Tubes are glowing really nicely. And the last thing to do is just to button it up and basically get it serviced. But I did what I could do. I'm not an amp tech by any means. I just basically cleaned this thing up. It really wasn't that hard. And I happen to have a tube tester which really helped diagnose the problem. I was afraid that the transformer, or one of the transformers, were bad. You know, we got the power transformer, which is on the right, and the output transformer on the left. And I did find a good source for replacements. I think I found the right one, but it's obviously not it's not an old stock one, but it's a Hammond if I need to replace one of the transformers. Hopefully that one, if I ever have to do that, I can just drop that in. In any event, I'm going to just button this up, and I'll probably just take it to an amp tech now and just see if all the capacitors are in good shape and just get a general service. But all in all, it's definitely a one for the win column, definitely. So that's about it. And hope you enjoyed the video. And once I get this going, I'll put it through some tests. I'm building out a pedal board as well, so we'll go through some tests for this, and you'll see more videos on it soon. All right, everyone, Vermont Prepper out, and as always, keep prepping.